All right, we're back online. Welcome everyone who is out there and has been waiting. We're back in the council chamber at 10.10, Eco Fund 25-26. Livy, do you want to kick us off?
I might very quickly and then just hand over to staff, and appreciate that we had an early heads up from a few councillors just with some questions about the paper. So just for context, you made some decisions on the Eco Fund in May 2025. That was for last year's round to approve a series of payments. And as part of that paper, staff had indicated that there would be a review undertaken in time to deliver it before the end of this year. We'd flagged October and have been able to bring that forward to this meeting, which will enable us to get next year's round and the communications around next year's round out much earlier to the community, which we know they value. What we, on reflection in the interim and in the paper, is not clear is the intent for a full review of the Eco Fund. So all aspects of it, workshop with council considering the new large scale fund was always intended to be done at the end of this current financial year that we're in now. It wasn't the intent, as indicated in that May paper, to do that full review this year. So apologies if that's how the paper came across. It is a very narrow review undertaken to enable us to get this year's Eco Fund underway. And obviously that is just delivering on the annual plan work program that's been signed off. So I just wanted to put that, I guess, out there first, and I'll leave the details to be covered by the team through their intro.
Thank you. So this paper is seeking approval of the Eco Fund funding categories for 2026, and there are some recommendations, as Richard just touched on, to consider based on feedback that's been received. Criteria around what will and won't be funded has been made clearer for applicants as part of this feedback and review. We're also seeking to provide flexibility for groups who have existing projects underway, and when their final reports are provided, to enable them to apply for further funding. We're seeking approval to enable communications and engagement to commence with the community, to provide them information about the fund and the categories so that they can prepare and contact staff early to enable good quality applications to be submitted with a range from across the region. We also want to have clear differentiation between any large-scale environmental funding that council may adopt and the timing of the Eco Fund, and this will enable appropriate staff resourcing for both funding streams. That's it from me.
Thank you. Okay, any questions? Councillor Weir.
Yeah, just around the scaling up for biodiversity category. Just wanted to check my understanding that that's sort of intended as a mid-step between the general category and the large-scale environmental funds that we're sort of working on. And if that's the case, would previously successful Eco Fund applicants, I guess in particular with the scaling up for biodiversity category, with projects that had a successful application there and reported back successfully, would that reflect positively on applications for the large scale environmental funds later on? Is that the intention there?
So the first part of your question, yes, that is the intention. It is to be mid-scale kind of opportunity for groups to receive funding and to give them some experience around how to deliver large quantities of money if they haven't done that before, to enable them to then apply for large scale funding if that is approved later on. And also to the second part of your question, it would act favourably. That's the intention of it. Every project would need to be assessed based on the merits of that project though, so we wouldn't guarantee that that is something that can be funded longer term.
And I just had a question around the two quotes for anything above $500 that's proposed, around paragraphs 19 and 20 or the attachments through. I was just wondering how we landed on $500, just reflecting a process now of sorting a DCC application in there. They have a similar requirement, but it's 2,000.
Currently, we don't require copies of invoices for cost over $500. So this is why I've suggested that $500 amount, but we could change it to $2,000 if you wanted to.
It's up to this table to decide.
Councillor Nottingham.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The hill country erosion management, do we know what the definition of hill country is, or do we need to have it aligned with the land use classification by, above 4, above 5, or whatever it might be? Just a thought.
Still to receive some advice from from
Our land management advisor.
Mr. Harris.
No, it's Alison Turner
Oh, sorry.
internally. He will be, he's involved in that though, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, we need to receive advice on how we would determine what hill country is defined as, internally, internal advice to ensure that that's set up properly.
Would you like my advice?
Sure.
We'd love it.
I think if you use land use classification, that's the simplest way. Really.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Sunville and then Callagher.
Yeah, thanks. Look, I'm just going back to the matter councillor Weir raised, because I guess I'm very concerned that we make the fund as simple and straightforward for applicant groups, many of whom are quite small groups, to apply for. Could you just tell us a bit more about the feedback you've had, whether in the last round or in previous rounds, around that issue, around the complexity and ease of applications, and I suppose any reflections on how the requirement for 2 quotes might make a difference to that?
So I'll touch on the 2 quotes part. So we've received advice from the co-chairs of the Audit and Risk Committee. And that was a recommendation that he provided to us, is that we should be receiving 2 quotes for any work that's being delivered. So that we've taken that on board. That was advice that he provided to us. We didn't seek that out. That was something he wanted to provide before he finished his term. I believe he was finishing his term. So that is why that is included in this paper, and it is, if the council decides that that's not something that you want to have, that we can remove it and change it back, but that's the advice that we've received. I'll let Elodie comment on the ease of applying for the Eco Fund based on information that we've received. Have you had any?
Yeah, no, I haven't really had any feedback on this year. So I think like next year we're gonna do a survey with grant applicants and recipients, and that probably we get further advice then.
Yeah, so and I'll just add to that, so there has been a focus on making this as user friendly as possible, and you'll be aware that we introduced our online application system last time round. And again, the continued focus is on how we can ensure that it is easy as possible, but there's the appropriate checks and balances there in terms of making sure we get the right information and that enough risk to council is reduced. So we continue to focus on that, and we've made some more meaningful steps forward with that this time around as well.
I would also signal that I'd be pleased to move these recommendations, and I'm still thinking about whether to suggest moving that threshold from $500 to $2,000, because I understand that advice from the co-chair of Audit and Risk, and that we ought to take that seriously.
Thanks. Councillor Weir, were you foreshadowing as well earlier? Yeah,
Right, that's okay.
yeah, I think Councillor, yeah, okay, thanks. So you can second Councillor Sunville when the time comes, if you want to. Right, sorry, Councillor Callagher, you're next.
Thank you. So just on the 2 quotes, I get that, but how do they stay relevant and current through the time frame that we operate under to give an approval? Has that been feedback that you like?
No, we haven't had that feedback previously, but we are able to undertake some variations to funding agreements if that is required. Sometimes it will depend on how quickly the applicant uptakes the funding, rather than our processes being delayed. But yeah, I mean, a quote could change, depends how, like, they should be seeking a quote for long enough to be able to deliver their project. If it was for plants for example, you'd want to ensure that that was, the quote was applicable for when the planting would happen, which might not be till the next winter.
Onerous condition, thank you.
Councillor Mekong.
Look, I've got to try and phrase this as a question, do I? Can I clarify?
Yeah.
Question time.
Try and keep it short if you are, yep.
Yeah, okay, so Andrew was asked about processes and he came back, yes, with material purchases requiring 2 quotes. I don't remember $500 being advised on that, but it just, but he also recommended wages, where wages were being claimed that there was a staff contract or contractor agreement in there. And he was also recommending that at the end of the project, a bank statement should be provided. So those things go together. It's a package of process. So, but yeah, perhaps he did say 500. I don't know, certainly.
I don't think he said 500, it was any spend. That's what I took from the conversation.
So, yeah.
And if just to provide some further explanation on this point, because it's a good one, and this is the tension that we always have between the advice you will get from auditors or audit and risk committees versus the intent that I know this table has to make our processes as user-friendly and as simple to follow. But when we're dealing with public money, the sort of recommendations we got from Andrew are exactly the sort of recommendations I would expect to get. And I thought they were sound, and he's got some experience in that space, but it is still up to us to apply them in a way that we think is balanced. But we do have to, we do have to take seriously those recommendations when they come through. So certainly up to this table to make that call around where that line sits, because it is another step in the process. And we have worked really hard to try and make this easy and make it very simple for parties that want to apply and then receive funding and do these projects, but at the same time respond to the sort of advice we've received around appropriate checks and balances on public spend. So it is tricky, and I think the feedback's valid. The position the staff have taken is also a prudent one at this stage, but certainly welcome the feedback through potential amendments to those motions.
You're right, councillor Metham, yep. Okay, councillor Nicole.
Yeah, no, just follow up on that. Is the intention for 2 quotes to be provided with the application, or is the funding subject to getting 2 quotes for material or capital goods?
The intention is that it's provided with the application.
Which makes it more cumbersome than for a whole lot of people, yeah. As opposed to if the funding's subject to 2. If you know you got the funding, it's going to be far easier to get quotes as well. So.
Yeah, I agree, but it is hard for us to administer if we don't know exactly how much things are going to cost and how much money we're going to provide out to the community and to each individual or an individual community group. So that it does make it complex to administer.
Councillor Malcolm, then no.
Can I just ask the team this subsequent to that question? How do I prepare a grant without any quotes? Surely I need a quote to get an idea of what something's going to cost. I would have thought on all the ones that I've done.
I'm not sure.
So Kieran, I can speak from experience in terms of sports club grants. You always apply with quotes.
Yeah.
It's a given.
Yeah, that's
And it's usually a minimum of 2, and sometimes if the value's high enough, it's 3.
Yeah.
So it's the way that most of these, certainly the pub charities doing sports stuff, that's the way that's the way they operate. So as I say, there's a balance. We have staff to assist. That's been another big direction that we've had from the table, is what are we doing to ensure that people provide applications that meet the threshold so they don't get excluded through the process, and we're very aware of that. But we need some checks and balances in there, because we know this table's also asking us to spend prudently. So
yeah. Right. So if I can get back to my question, sorry about that. That's just a follow. So first one. So where are we going to actually assess the rate of environmental gain for the dollars spent? Where does that come in? Because I can't, and the evaluations that we have, it doesn't give that. It gives the evaluation that you've spent and you've done your job, but where are we going to actually evaluate, because I've spent that money, I'm going to get this amount of environmental gain, or I have got that environmental gain. So where's that coming?
That's a good question. There's some work for us to do in terms of how we evaluate the outcomes that have been achieved rather than just the outputs. So there's work to do. There will be some way we can collect that through our integrated catchment management work and catchment action planning with a tool that we've developed where you can input information across the region into a tool that will help show outcomes. At the moment, we don't have a tool to evaluate EcoFund other than the reporting that we receive and the site visits that our staff do to determine what outcomes they're seeing on properties, as well as what the community are telling us that they're seeing.
So Kevin, I think too that this is linked to our holistic monitoring, which Ben and Jason, I think it was, presented. Was that a couple of weeks ago or a month ago? And at the we had a public workshop on the work they're doing, which should be well advanced sort of through the next triennium to come back to the council table, where they're starting to provide a far more holistic view of Otago's environment. So trying to assess the environmental impact of a single eco-fund project is a very difficult thing to do, but certainly collectively, I think there is some work that can be done at assessment time where we know particular activities will have a greater chance of having a positive impact on the environment, and that's work that can be undertaken by the assessment panel. In terms of then being able to measure what is the actual benefit we're getting from these projects, I think that falls back more into that work that Ben and Jason presented that's more around the holistic monitoring.
Yeah, so would it be right that somewhere down the track we need to be able to have some touchstones that say if you do it this method, it's a good method. The method you're actually doing is not quite as good. Have you thought of changing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. And so my next question. So after our previous presentation from up at Clutha, we heard from Sandra McIntyre the difficulty they're having with resourcing things relating to mana whenua, which worries me to a degree that the reliance we're having on them within this process. So where we say, and I've just got to just bear with me if I go back to my question. So on 325, so if I've got a community project that's absolutely spot on, yet iwi can't resource their part of it or within a time frame given me their undertaking, how do I qualify for EcoFund? So they simply haven't got the resources to do it, so therefore I'm out.
Sorry, Kim, what's the matrix?
Oh, well, I've just read that through the whole process. Partnering with rope, and you have to get, so that's.
So no, the answer to that is no. It's our same approach to EcoFund that we've had over the last few years in terms of the applications coming in, and there is the role on the assessment panel that had been previously filled by Edward, and that is how that process works. We are looking at some guidance around Mahinga Kai, which was some feedback from around this table to ensure that part of the process wasn't tick box, but none of this relies on that specific resourcing or us resourcing mana whenua.
Yeah, so mana to mana, the Runaka chairs were very clear that they don't have capacity nor do they need or want to be involved in every project. So that's certainly not the expectation and hasn't been in previous rounds.
Yeah, and so it's just more, we're seeing more and more a willingness and endeavours by people to actually bring this whole process together. So what I just don't want to see as a barrier that's stopping that enthusiasm that we're creating. So, and then because there's a clause that you've got in here, and I just can't find it, that you're waiting until mana whenua will come back to you.
334.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Page 334. And it's highlighted in yellow.
Yeah, that's the one. The culture, environment, values, and
so that's the side you go to.
Yeah, so that's just that Mahinga Kai piece that I was speaking to. So ensuring again that there's information available to people around that and to ensure that there's general awareness. So yeah, that's just an outstanding action that's sitting there.
Yeah, and why do I turn it off when I'm about to talk? I'll get it right one day.
Here too long.
You said you're trying to make this process a whole heap easier, which, that's commendable, but then you throw in a thing called ex situ, which is not common dialect, unless it's part of Te Reo that I don't know, but I don't think it is. Well, therefore, no, I didn't, because I came from Port Chalmers and we didn't need Latin, but I can tell you some other languages that you won't want to hear.
I think everyone wants to know what it is.
Yeah, I do know what it is.
Oh, good.
Well, I've worked out, I know what it is, but I mean, to me, it's not a,
Might be a statement.
if you're going to put things out to the public, let's put things out in language.
So the question I'm picking up is, do we know what it means and have we looked at it? Yes, we had, and I did ask the team some questions about it because I was in the same boat as yourself. So we'll ensure that any external materials that go out beyond this will be
That's
simplified.
fine.
Yeah.
But if there's a suggested word outside
Outside
of
of
the table.
But I had to do some Googling.
You'll think on that, awesome. Righty,
Thanks very much.
point. Oh, wait, have I got someone else? Yes, I have, councillor Noon and then councillor McCall.
Thank you. The criteria for, I think it's the Hill Country erosion applications or criteria, it talks about the possibility of using non species. I think there'll be consideration given, and the consideration, I assume, is the responsibility of the panel.
Yes.
Right, so the applicant, when they apply, would they be aware at that point to put supporting information? They would be aware to put supporting information to help their case, obviously.
We hope that they will talk to us.
Okay, so
As, and
okay.
we'll provide advice to them around what we'd be looking for.
Okay, cool. And I was just going to say, I can't think of one funding organisation that doesn't have criteria to supply quotes.
Thank you. Yeah, we triggered off an answer to that one straight away, I can see. I'm sure there's some. Councillor Callagher, you can answer, then we'll go.
Freemasons.
One very quick question on that now that you've triggered it. I get the 2 quotes part of it, that we need that threshold at a level, say, and I would support it above $2,000. We need, numbers can't be plucked out of the sky and put into an application, but I'm picturing a school teacher who is trying to put together an application alongside everything else they do. What if we had one quote for sums $500 to $2,000? So at least one quote, 2 quotes is twice the workload of getting one quote, but at least one quote would be a supporting piece of information for the costing that is being applied for. So one quote 500 to 2,000, 2 quotes after that.
It is for this council to decide. It's hard to weigh up whether it's a fair quote when there's only one to look at, is the only thing from a panel point of view and assessing the applications.
Okay, thanks. Good suggestion. It's probably not a question. Right, Councillor McCall and Councillor Wilson.
Well, thank you. I just got 2 questions. One's just, I was trying to get my head around this on page 329. It's just the criteria around groups that have had funding that haven't got their reporting. Well, the current project's not quite finished or the reporting's not quite done. I'll just figure out what. Can you tell me what the hell works?
I can go first and I'll hand to LD. At the moment, they're not, if they haven't provided their final report, they're not eligible for funding at all for EcoFund, even if it's a different project. So what we've tried to do with this criteria is make it easier for applicants. If they have a project that hasn't been fully delivered, they can provide us a progress report instead of a final report, and then the final report would be provided at a later date once that project is complete, to enable them to apply for further funding.
And that's in direct response to feedback that we'd had on other rounds and from some councillors too, around that some groups were missing out or unable to apply because of a timing issue.
So is that, would we have a proactive approach to the projects that haven't reported that they would need to do
Yes.
progress report, because it's got to be done 10 days before the application, or there's a few rules in behind there. So is that how it works? So we'd proactively approach them?
Yes, we would.
Yeah. So that was one. The other one was 337, which is around, this is another one I know you're trying to rectify, and this is around the funding to subgroups of an umbrella group. So you've got groups, you've got an umbrella group that holds the funds, and there might be 5 or 6 community groups underneath. And how does that work? Because it's sort of the way I was reading, it was like, You could have it, but only with one line coming through. Or- I just want to work out what the intention is. That's on 337.
Yeah, the intention is that if a subgroup from an umbrella organization or a group that can get the support from the umbrella organization wants to apply, they can apply. So we don't have any limits on the numbers of subgroups or groups that can apply in an umbrella organization.
So again, this one speaks to feedback that we've had where there's been a broader arching project group that might have a conglomeration of catchment groups underneath, and the previous criteria had stopped those groups that set under that umbrella who may have separate and standalone projects from applying for EcoFund from us. So again, just responding to that feedback and ensuring that we are able to fund groups that have the panel is able to consider projects from those groups.
Yeah, I understand what we're trying to get to. It just says both an umbrella organisation and its affiliates groups may submit separate applications for the same. But can you have separate affiliated groups of the same parent?
Yes.
That's just what I wanted to check.
Nice, okay. Sorry.
Oh, 329. The other one is just the very bottom of that page, the assessment one, because the first bullet point says that the assessment is limited to the content of the application, and the last one says assessors can request additional information.
Yeah.
So that's sort of one or the other, I would think.
On reflection, I'm suggesting that we actually get that last sentence, but that we remove the second sentence from the first bullet point, so that we remove the assessment is limited to the content of the application.
Yeah, that's thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I just want to express my frustration that it must be, how frustrating it must be for you, because I think having done this for a few years, you've probably been asked the same questions for us 3 or 4 years ago, and it must get tiresome. I apologise, because the more we try these, the more we're going backwards. The question I have is on the very issue of the quotes, and I'm just going to suggest, and I know that Councillor Elliott's doing some work on it. Would it be, I've done a significant number of applications for funding. There are sometimes where by the very nature of the location, it is impossible to get to quotes efficiently. And so not just by value, but that, or by location, that you may have an exceptions that can be argued. And would that work?
That sounds like a sensible option.
Thank you. Getting quotes to people building up in Big Hut, I can promise you, is an exceptionally difficult situation. So I would support that sort of like, thank you.
Yeah, or highly specific technical gear, that sort of thing. Yeah. Right, no more questions. Got a mover and a seconder, I think. There was some discussion of an adjustment. Yeah. So do you want to talk about that then, what it was? Because Alan, you suggested it, I think.
Yes, well, you go, Elliot, you got something to
Elliot
say?
moved, Alan seconding. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was an amendment or because the seconder can suggest to the
Mine was
motion that whether they're happy to accept a change too without an amendment.
I was suggesting an amendment,
Yeah.
so 2 quotes were required for amounts over $2,000, which tried to balance the need for caution, as the Andrew Douglas had passed through, with trying to make this as simple a process as possible for applicants.
So you're moving an amendment.
Mine was just going to be the 1 quote for over $500 and then 2 quotes for over $2,000. But
Right, so you've got in first moving an amendment then, it sounds like. Yep. Which becomes the
Yes,
motion.
okay.
Yeah. So you now need to have a seconder,
Right,
but are everyone clear on what the amendment is?
We're going with Elliot's one, isn't it?
I think
No, Alan got in
Alan
first
got
just
in
then
first. So
to
what was yours,
suggest an
Alan?
amendment.
simply the amendment being that currently it says 2 quotes are required for amounts over $500, to amend that to 2 quotes for amounts over $2,000.
You wouldn't consider adding Elliot's amendment too?
I would, so may I just
Shall we
clarify?
have an adjournment perhaps?
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's have an
Yeah.
adjournment for 5 minutes
Yeah.
to sort out what the amendment is. which is fair enough. So I'll move it. Councillor Forbes, thanks guys. Seconding, 5 minutes, all in favour, aye, against, carry, thanks. We're just coming back now. Gonna share the screen.
No,
Get set up.
it can be discharged.
Are we live and recording? Yep, so we're live and recording. We're back. Just need to come to order, everyone. Thank you. We're sharing the screen now, what the amendment looks like. So yeah, that's that's 3 there, isn't it? So we got 1, 2's crossed, so it's actually 2, yep. Yep. So the new 2, which is, okay, approves the eligibility criteria for each funding credit category as set out in attachment 2 with an amendment to require 1 quote for expenses from 500 to 2,000 and 2 quotes for expenses exceeding 2,000, along with an appropriate exceptions criteria, which we understand was for the examples before, and that will work that out, right? Yep. Everyone's finished chatting. So yeah, the move there. What you're happy with that amendment, seconder? Yeah. Okay. So you've got a seconder. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Sunville?
Thank you. Yes, that'd be good. Look, thank you to the staff who have brought this paper. The Eco Fund is really very important to many community groups throughout Otago. And the region gets great value out of it too, because of course with some finance from the Eco Fund, it also pulls on a whole lot of voluntary effort in support of those environmental goals. I note too that it aligns exactly with the Regional Council strategic direction, the goal number 2 under communities, which notes our communities are supported and empowered to achieve better environmental decisions, and it's a perfect match with that. So this is a very important thing. Let's keep this Eco Fund going. We know there's been, has achieved great things for many groups and has been very, very useful for many community groups throughout Otago. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else on this one. We'll check in though that we'll take 2 on its own first, I think. Your amendment. Just in case we have not,
I was going to ask, because there are no other speakers, I had a right of reply lined up. Well, there is another.
Yeah, no, there is. I'm just double checking for everyone that they'll be aware that we'll take 2 on its own. Yeah. So anyone who wants to speak to 2. Right. So Councillor Callagher, were you waving your hand around before? No? Yeah, and then Councillor Lee.
Yep, look, very briefly, I appreciate the slight change that we've made there. One of the most common things said to me with Eco Fund, other than the appreciation of the Eco Fund that we provide, is how onerous is the process to get to there, and especially for the very small amounts, which are small but beneficial to those groups, the effort they have to go to be able to apply for them for what can be a very small amount of money, but it's very meaningful in what it could achieve. So I think the more easy we can make it while having a robust check and balance will be appreciated by the community.
Thanks. Councillor Weir.
Touch on everything else just to save me.
Okay.
Before, but as a team have acknowledged, we've got a full comprehensive review down the horizon, and how we look at outcome reporting and the integrated catchment management, sort of holistic monitoring, and the integration with all the other biodiversity work. So very much looking forward to that. But today we're just looking at some, fairly minor, sensible changes that we can put into place for now until that review takes place. And I think they all make sense. But yeah, do just want to be careful with any hurdles that we're adding to the process, very wary of the administrative burden that can weigh down community groups and prevent them from doing more of the good mahi that they've otherwise been doing. And I guess acknowledging that we haven't had any issues flagged that have arisen from the current lack of quote requirement so far, but and in a lot of cases there may only be sort of one provider that's really truly relevant for the goods and services that they're needing for the work in that specific area, or they may have a pre-existing relationship with a supplier. But you know, we are dealing with public money, and Andrew Douglas has raised some very valid points in terms of us being prudent about that. And so the compromise that we've sort of arrived at here is something I'm very happy to support, with that one quote for 500 plus and two quotes for 2,000, which I think sort of mirrors some of the DCC funding grants, in terms of that two quotes for over $2,000 numbers. So very happy to support that today, but just want to acknowledge the team as well, and that they are there to help applicants, and they have been doing that for the past few rounds. So where there are these, where there are hurdles and barriers, the team have been really great at helping community groups step through them. So.
Okay, anyone else? Right, well, oh, unless you need to write a reply on toe, because
Right, just on 2 only.
yeah. So I need to do the other ones as well. Right, so we're gonna put toe then, all in favour, aye, against, recorded.
Yep.
Yep, councillor Malcolm recorded, motion's passed for two. Now we're on to all the rest, so that was back to, I guess, did you want to move again? Councillor Ware and second councillor Somerville.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, moving.
Sure.
Yeah. Rightio, councillor Ware, did you want, you said you spoke before, but do you need to speak again? Okay. Anyone else want to speak to the whole paper?
I do.
Right, councillor Somerville.
I do. Thank you. Look, thanks very much. Look, I've been involved as chair of the Eco Fund panel for the last 3 years, and have seen how each year the criteria have been further refined. And this is another example of non-information and making further refinements. That's great. Now, over the next few months, we are currently expecting to see the rollout of the council's new large-scale environmental fund. And that's going to be a big change. And when we see how that lands, then I believe it will be time for a very major review of the Eco Fund to see how that all fits together. Thanks.
Councillor Ware.
Just steal a quick pride of reply, just to acknowledge the work of the chair of the Eco Fund for the last few years, Councillor Sample.
Well said. Everyone else? Oh, councillor Malcolm.
Yeah, well, I'm going to vote against every recommendation that we're putting on this project today, and just for a couple of reasons, really. And I just reflect on what Councillor Somerville said, that this is very important, and this Eco Fund to me is exceptionally important. But I don't believe we've given this paper the true justice that we should have. I've got some 20 questions on this paper that still many of them remained unanswered, but I'm taking a stab that they will be done right, and I'm sure staff will do the best. We have had time. We could have workshopped yesterday morning. We actually had, I think, in our calendars, that was a workshop period. We could have had a workshop on this and come to this table with a greater understanding of the project. We're changing, if you look at the critical source area, you've got no other than a poor uptake. Why did we change it? We're saying no non-natives were allowed to opt for hillside establishment, but why can't we have that in riparian areas? We're using it ourselves. The RRC are using willows in riparian areas. So to me, there's a whole heap of stuff that really, I know this is a touch review, but to me, there's dramatic parts of this have been changed. I'm still not sure why they have been. And I just don't think we've given the Eco Fund the justice that it actually requires. So I'm not happy. I believe it should have been workshopped, and we had certainly had time to do that.
Thanks, councillor Malcolm. Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Mepham.
Look, we had a very good presentation around the Upper Lakes Catchment Action Plan, and this is the approach we're taking in terms of non-regulatory compliance. and it's going to be rolled out across the region. The thing that concerns me is that when we look at the funding of those catchment action plans, a lot of the groups are just referring back to the Eco Fund and now our large scale environmental fund. I just think that we should put on notice that these funds aren't large enough to achieve the results that are being envisioned in these catchment action plans. Thank you.
Thanks. Deciding whether I should speak or not. Probably not, other than to say that we do conduct a review annually. So this is an annual review. And then, as we've heard, we will be doing a large review next year, where no doubt there will be workshops. I want to thank everyone that's been involved in this work. There's actually some really pragmatic changes that I can see that are there, although mainly minor this time, which is what we were expecting with the annual review. Big opportunity for whoever's on council next time to have a full look with a big review. Yeah, thanks heaps. And you've done your right of reply, Elliot. So we can put all of those motions together now. All in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you. Recorded, Councillor Malcolm. Yep. Motions have passed. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. In 11. Yep, second time. We've got enough time. The integrated catchment management review.
Happy for me to go?
Oh, sure. Sorry, Libby. I was waiting, but you're right there.
I'm here.
Go for it.
Thank you. So we've got AJ Millwood online. She would have liked to have been here in person, but she couldn't be here today. So thanks for joining us, AJ. This paper provides the independent review of the ICM program as requested by Council in June. The review has highlighted some great positives of the existing program and some areas that can be enhanced. We'll come back with an implementation program with recommendations on how this can be embedded if it is endorsed today. And the paper also seeks delegation to the Chief Executive to sign off the Tairi Integrated Catchment Group to enable the momentum of the Tairi process to continue. It's an overview of the paper. So we're happy to answer any questions, and we have AJ here to help with that too.
Questions? Councillor Malcolm then, Laws.
On page 343, I think it was, there's 8 recommendations from Transcend. What of those are we implementing now, and have we included those improvements into the Tairi plan before we start the Tairi plan?
So just briefly, the review, at the moment they are not being embedded into the Tairi ICM process because the review was to be separate. So we had permission to carry on with the Upper Lakes and the Tairi review. So this independent review is separate to that, but understanding that there are some of those recommendations, those 8 recommendations, we will be able to pick up as part of that. We just won't be able to implement them right from the start because we've already commenced the Tairi process.
So other than the initial meetings with the Tairi, and we've done no more than that?
No.
No. So at this stage, you're saying to me that you might grab some of those 8 and work with them, but there will be quite of some of the deficiencies shown up that we're not going to rectify. So we're going through with going into a project that we haven't sorted out our deficiencies from previous projects.
It will be for the council table to decide if we don't carry on.
So Kevin, I think the way I describe is some of them are recommendations that affect the whole program, and some of them are project specific. So anything that's project specific, I would expect to be applied through the Tairi program, and then those that are program, which is sort of around governance and things, as we bring those on stream with the new council, they will effectively become part. The Tairi project will become part of that, and they'll pick up those recommendations as well. So over time, you should see all of those recommendations being applied right across the ICM program. But some of them relate to how we set the program up, and then some of them will relate specifically to how we work within that tidy project. But you should over time see them all being picked up right through the program.
So if we're not going to have a chunk of those, what is the rush to continue with the Tory one if we know there are system things that we could be doing better? So what do we do? What is the great rush?
There's no significant rush, but we have engaged with that community, and if we were to pause that now, we would lose the momentum that we've gained with them to enable them to deliver a catchment action plan.
So subsequent to that would be if we went back to the community and said there are significant improvements that we wish to make before we carry on with the project. Would you not think that they would be happier to do that rather than to go through with a project that might have some hiccups in it?
But we can't speak on behalf of that community and that group. We invested in delivering a really good program, and we've had through this process, identifying there are some areas for improvement, and the team is committed to doing those, but we can't speak on behalf of how that community would receive us going back and saying we needed to pause this program.
I think again, I would expect, despite the fact that Tidy's already only with 2 meetings, it's not far through the process, if at all. Mm-hmm. So these recommendations you see here can be applied to that Tidy model. That they, it's not happening before the project starts, but the process in terms of the way it's set up allows us to introduce these changes and continue with this continuous improvement. So I don't see an issue with applying those recommendations and ensuring that the Tidy project, which is a complex one in its own right because of the way the communities up there are already delivering plans and working together, I don't see any reason why these recommendations can't be applied to the integrated catchment management approach to ensure that it's successful.
Councillor Lawson.
Just a minor point to start with on pages 340 and 341.
What?
On pages 340 and 341, just a minor point. Is it Tyri or Tyari? This paper seems confused. It uses both interchangeably.
The correct spelling is 1908 was Tyari.
Oh, no. Sorry, has that been changed by the National Geographic Board, is it? No. So the correct spelling is Tiaaieri. It's just no. I'm just looking at here. There are 4 mentions of Tyri or Tyari, and they're all spelt differently.
And apologies, Councillor Laws, in previous papers we have used both grouped together with the dash between the two. So we will ensure that any future papers has both with the hyphen between the two.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. The recommendations are A to H on page 343, paragraph 12. My understanding of this report is that it was commissioned to assist in improving the effectiveness and efficiency of each stage in the CAP process. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the first recommendation and if we are to pass these recommendations today, they are to endorse the attached report written by independent consultants Transcend. And Transcend have, as I understand, clarified, or you have clarified, in subparagraphs A to H and paragraph 12, what those recommendations are. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the first one is clarifying and strengthening governance and decision-making, including a program-level governance board with mana whenua membership. But that's not actually what the report says, does it? Because if I take you to page 24, 25 of the report, the draft on to figure 3, it says the draft proposed governance model is essentially a 50-50 partnership between the Otago Regional Council and the Rūnaka. Now, in the report itself, it says, and I quote, there is a perception that mana whenua are not consistently treated as partners in governance. While representation exists, it's limited to policy or technical staff rather than senior levels. And there are few formal pathways for Rūnaka chairs or governance leaders to participate in limited visibility between CAT processes and iwi decision-making forums. And then leads to this figure. And then in actual fact goes on to say, suggestions to strengthen governance included creating a dedicated mana whenua governance forum. So this is apparently the ORC is going to create this. And resource iwi to lead their own governance approaches. So apparently going to fund it as well. Now, if that's the that's the background and the rationale that's used in the report, that would seem to take that a long way from where recommendation A is, or subset A on this particular paragraph. And I just want to make sure that we're not taking such a radical departure as promoted in this Transcend report, that in actual fact, A doesn't mean that. Or does A mean that?
No, it doesn't. So the intent is for us to bring back an implementation plan for councillors around this table to consider the recommendations and that implementation plan. So this is just endorsing the review and us moving to the next step. Any decision around that governance will come back with recommendations in the implementation plan.
Right, because I'm asked to, in here, endorse the recommendations of the Transcend report in attachment 1. That's the motion you've got recommended by staff. But what I've just read out to you is part of that Transcend report. So I'm pretty reluctant to endorse a Transcend report when it has those sorts of views and endorsements. But I don't mind endorsing paragraph.
So AJ will be able to transcend, but also just and certainly might you've read out parts of the substantive text. The blue recommendations on page 25 are what's carried through in those points within the paper. And that talks about reviewing or updating the governance model, including a program level governance board, which is consistent with what we've heard from the ICM conversations we've had at mana to mana. So certainly what we're seeking endorsement on are those recommendations that are carried through in the report, and still with, as Joe said, the implementation plan to come back to the table.
Yes,
so I don't know, AJ, if you've got sort of further comments on that.
Correct. Thank you, Richard. The sentence being referred to, suggestions were made around. We were just representing the views of participants in the interview process. So merely commenting that some suggestions were made around setting up separate groups, etc. That was not our recommendation. Our recommendations are the ones in blue in the paper.
But it also says in the paragraph, and this isn't a suggestion, it's the paragraph that immediately follows. Governance models must reflect mana whenua partnership, and the overall system must recognise rangatiratanga, enable iwi leadership, and ensure shared accountability and decision making. Now that's not a suggestion, is it? That's
the view of the participant. So apologies if that wasn't clear in the text. It was carrying on from the view of the participant.
Because it's not clear, it's a separate paragraph and it sits at the end, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
I'm really supportive of the review, and thank you for all the work that's happened in that, and I think it's a really good, solid tick of approval. None of these things are easy to roll out perfectly once at the start, and I think there's been a lot of learnings, and I certainly have enjoyed that. So I just want to unpick that. So I've got no problems with the review and the first two. What I do have is a problem with the tairi now, given the urgency that this seems to be taking place, because there is, as Councillor Malcolm suggested some things that could be fixed before we go there. But I'm slightly conflicted because I've got a report that not everyone has got about this because of their integrated. What is the urgency for this to be delegated to the CE rather than the delegation going potentially to the ICMP after the elections, which could change quite radically at some things?
So there's no issue with that occurring. The intent behind this was to enable the program to continue and deliver on some of the timeframes that we previously brought to council for the next stages of integrated catchment management, because we're conscious we've done two of a number. Look, there is no issue if the council would prefer to hold that over, and we would just communicate that to those parties that are involved. It's not we just staff feel that this is a way for us to progress in terms of the plans with, or the timetable provided recently, but it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to raise that as an opportunity. I would be happy, and heaven knows who's going to be on the next ICMP, but if that delegation went on past the, I think there's some real value in using the members of the ICM working party, but I'm slightly concerned about the decisions being made before the 11th of October, because that would change potentially the representation of some people who are standing. And it's in that basis that that makes some sense to judge.
Yeah, I follow you. Yeah.
Yep. Councillor Weir and then no.
Yeah, one of the highlights of the report was the use of the conservation standards in the development of these plans. Am I correct that that's sort of a first for ORC in some of our planning work? And if so, are we considering using those conservation standards in any other work program going forward?
Yes, I believe it is the first ORC to use conservation standards. I think it might even be the first in New Zealand to use it. I'm not sure about the rest of ORC, but at this point there's no idea to use conservation standards in any other work.
No, we certainly have people from across the organisation in our internal groups and a high level of investment and participation in those. So yeah, again, along with any knowledge sharing, good things are picked up where they can be. So, once we continue to maintain this momentum, yeah, it could be applicable to other work streams, but no decisions being made yet.
Councillor Noon.
Thank you. Correct me if I've read the review wrongly, but there was a suggestion in there that we seem to be a bit clunky around what science work that was already completed or on the way or whatever, when some of the conversations were starting to be had. So there was one of the recommendations talks about making sure that we're fit for purpose in that space. And I suppose the review was based on effectiveness and being efficient and value for money. So I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that something like that has popped up. But do I read it wrong? Or?
No, you didn't read it wrong. So one of the recommendations is to strengthen internal communication and coordination, and including alignment within council and with partners. So that is something that we will work to, and we can do that. We're already doing that. We're doing that every day, but we need to do that better. And that's absolutely something we can do for the Tairi.
Yeah,
so it really just is.
I appreciate. Sorry.
No, that's right. It really just is picking up on the great work that the science team has done over the last few years, especially in that progression of the land and water plan phase, and say the All Lakes tag and all that, and making sure we have that all there and able to share with the very start. At the very start of these processes with these groups. So just using the work that's already there and ensuring those lines of communication are in and the right people are in the meetings from the very start. So very operational, but very important.
Appreciate that it's a recommendation, and I did read that as well. But I suppose my point was it a disappointment that was highlighted? Because one of the things of trying to ensure that we don't work in silos across the organisation. This is not a crack at Richard or crack at you, but I think I suppose that focus never stops, does it? We've got
and I understand the question. I don't take it as a crack. I think, but I would explain it as a disappointment. This is something that all councils struggle with, and we just know we've got to keep getting better. And it's but it is timely for us to hear it from members of the community from time to time that they think we're still not doing it well, because we feel we are communicating better internally than we have been. But what this is telling us is that we've still got a way to go. So, it's good to just be reminded of that, and then we can just make sure we keep a bit of focus on it.
Thank you.
No other questions? Somebody want to move? Councillor McCall, seconded Councillor Forbes. Is it a question?
So
So
it's sort of just relating to this, it's sort of clarified as a result. So the recommendation, I think, is slightly out of skew as a result of the discussion we've had. We should receive the Transcend report, and we should then, another motion should be that we ask staff to work on an implementation team, or an implementation plan related to paragraphs A to H on paragraph 12. At the moment, the way this reads is just what you said it isn't, which is that we are endorsing the recommendations in attachment 1 and that an implementation plan. Now, with respect, the recommendations are based upon the text. And so the text of the report goes to support the recommendations. Now, you're saying that that's not quite what you intended, and then you've clarified what the points are A to H on paragraph 12. That's what you intend.
Yeah.
Correct?
well, it says that Transcend identified 8 key recommendations and then lists what they are.
They moved.
Well, can I listen?
It's a clarification, so yeah, he is allowed to ask staff a question.
So all I'm seeking to do is to clarify that the motion is in actual fact to do what's contained in paragraph 12.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I want to clarify in the motion.
Mm.
Because the way the motion reads is that the recommendations that are in the Transcend report, you can't read them separate from the text that accompanies them. And if I was to take an example of that, it would be, this is what the governance model looks like. It's in this figure proposed. So it is the supplementary material that goes with the recommendation, which is on the next page. This is the governance model.
So what we've got there is endorses the recommendations of the Transcend report. In endorsing the recommendations of the Transcend report, are they summarised as A to H?
Yes.
Yes, so that's what we're voting on.
Okay, so can we
and it's
clarify that in the
understanding,
motion?
Yep.
Oh, I can't.
Well, no.
Well, no, it
This is-
doesn't
this is
amend the
clear.
motion. It's correct. That's what he's saying. Yep.
Yeah, but-
He's happy with it.
Well, then I'll speak to it. It's just nonsense. And this is the reason why the LICs are the mess that it is.
Don't like that comment. We're in the middle of debate. We're clarifying the answer there, which we got, which was that the recommendation of the Transcend report are summarised there, which is what the text says. And that would be what the staff go away and work towards. We've got a mover and a seconder. Does anyone want to speak to this? We'll go to the mover first of all, just to see if they want to speak first. Yep.
Yeah, I'll speak first. Was I moving?
I actually think you were the second.
I think I was too.
Who did? Oh, Lloyd.
There you go.
Only if you want to.
Oh, you go first, please.
I just wanted to thank you, AJ, for this piece of work. It was a great piece of work and it was quite clarifying as where things were. I think the recommendations as A to H are a really good way to get going because it means that we don't need to stop anything. We have a robust program that can continue to be rolled out. And as with everything, we should be aiming for constant improvement. And I think that these recommendations will do this. I think it's an excellent program. I've really enjoyed being part of it. And I think that these are well thought out improvements that will make a difference. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Laws, you're next.
Sure. the last 3 years I've talked about the English language and what it means. And that's one of the reasons why is because of King Salmon, a report that came to us, a High Court case, I think an appeal court case in actual fact, that is about what words mean and that words have a meaning. And so in this particular recommendation, we are asked to endorse the recommendations of the Transcend report attachment 1. The problem is that you've got to read what the rationale is behind each of those recommendations. And so why does a recommendation exist? What is the evidence that supports it? What is the logic that supports the recommendation? And the very first recommendation relates to the governance model that will be employed going forward and that we're asking staff to bring an implementation plan on. And the first recommendation, the Transcend report, based on page 25, gives you a proposed role of what that governance model would look like and a draft governance model, and it's contained in figure 3. Now, it has a level of detail that isn't in the paragraphs that are in the text, but gives a fairly clear sense of direction as to what that governance model should look like. And that governance model is essentially, as in figure 3, a partnership that looks like 50-50 to me and has a figure that has such. And indeed, some of the supporting text around it, as I suggested to you beforehand, relates to the possibility not simply of having some form of dual partnership model, but also the potential to resource such. And I do not want staff to go away and work on that. I do not want staff to go away and work on that at all. And it would be wrong to give an indication to them from endorsing the recommendations of the Transcend report in attachment 1 and of the logic, the rationale, and the words that support those recommendations, that this governance model is accepted. And so for that reason, I asked for, and still ask for, the recommendations that are in paragraph 12, A to H to B, the defining recommendations that staff will bring the implementation plan back to us on, which would apparently suit what the Chief Executive has said to us, but is different in nuance from what is involved in the Transcend.
Okay, any further debate? Councillor Weir.
For the recommendations that we're moving today, I do just think if we're going to be careful about words, you know, Councillor Laws mentioned that the governance model outlined in figure 3 outlines what the report reckons the governance board should look like, but the words below outline that this is what the governance board could look like, and those are two very different words. Just want to be careful about words. Good.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing, whether it's drafted a straw person future governance model there, and then it does go into recommendations relating to the governance arrangements. Number 1, update the ICMP governance model, including forming a program level governance board comprising councillors, senior mana whenua leaders, independent experts with clear authority and provide strategic oversight. So that's probably pretty much as you would expect. Got nothing to see here really, that's pretty standard. And then establish a shared understanding of governance, clearly define how the decision making might work and how you deliver it. And then the third one was around governance groups to transition into delivery focused bodies, which we heard a lot about earlier today from some of our councillors who are really keen for those groups to get into action. So yeah, that's there as well. So yeah, I really liked many aspects of this review, but note that very soon this will come to an end this day, and this will be our last council meeting. In endorsing the recommendations of the Transcend report, which are listed there in summary as A to H, which I put ticks next to all of them, and I'm hearing so far that other people did as well. That's awesome, but actually it will come back to the new council and they're going to assess all that and decide whether they like it or not. So it just gives staff a steer to go away and work on this, but actually the new council is going to get the ultimate say on what this looks like in the end. So I'm really comfortable with this. Actually, I moved, and I remember Kate Wilson seconding not adopting the program initially that was put up on the 5th of June because to me it had a whole lot of holes in it, our current program, and a whole lot of delays in it. And I'm really keen to see this move faster. I really liked A2H as well. I think this is really valuable work. I, like other councillors who've spoken today, just want to see some action, and I want to see support for communities who are ready to go when they're ready to go, not waiting for 10 years for that opportunity to work and get support. So that's where I'm at on that. Anyone else? Councillor Wilson.
And so it's totally endorse the comments about the Transcend report, and I certainly think it reflects a lot of comments that I've heard about it. So well done, Transcend and AJ. I am going to be difficult about the third option. I don't think we should progress with that at the moment over the election period. And I also think that it won't. I think any farmers who happen to be on that group and we think that they're going to progress this in the next 3 weeks, which would show that we just don't understand carbon lambing and various other things happening anyway. I think the elections could change quite a lot of things about this that we need to be really cognizant of. And so on that basis, I will not be voting for the third recommendation. I'd rather it laid on the table.
All right. Okay, thank you. No other debate. Councillor McCollum.
Did I reply on the last one?
Oh, sorry, was that
Did you
your
move
hand
it?
up, Councillor Metham?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry. Before I would reply.
Well, I've been trying to understand the concerns of Councillor Law around this, and I can't quite see how they could materialise if we are having this plan coming back to council in whatever format the council is at the time. So I am prepared to support the recommendations 1 through 3. Thanks.
Councillor McCollum, do I? Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, Councillor Malcolm.
The Transcend report to me was very timely, clearly being done very thoroughly, and I congratulate on the work. It's good, readable, understandable, and has some very good recommendations based on the evidence that's before them. We had earlier in this meeting, we had a CEO's report. And there was questions, I asked the questions myself where we were progressing on various parts of our efficiency and effectiveness review, and some of the major clunky things are being worked on. They're certainly not being pushed aside, but they're going to take time to get underway. And then when I go into the Transcend report around current challenges, and I'm struggling to see why, until we have some of those challenges organisationally inside our team sorted, before we would want to go back out to the community and probably repeat those. the Tairi community that I know of, if you tell them what's happening, they're generally understanding. And I just think if we're this, to me, the integrated catchment process will be the cornerstone of, subject to Shane Jones, of course, will be the cornerstone of regional councils' activities for the next many years. They are absolutely critical, and they are the way that we will get our communities doing the very best things together and assisting any authority and any group that wants environmental improvement. So it's beholding on us to ensure, why do we have this review? We had the review to see where we're going, to see if there was any shortcomings. And I think before we engage further with the Tairi, that some of those, the majority of that, we certainly should have directions how we're going to rectify those inconsistencies and weaknesses. And none of them are through poor actions by staff or whatever. It's just the fact that's where we are at the moment, and we need to be rectifying them before we take it further. So I will be voting against the recommendations to proceed with the Tairi action plan.
Thanks, I'll put them separately then. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I'm going to speak in support of the motions, and I'll endorse taking this checkpoint to the next level, the transcend report to the next level, so the staff can go away and come back to the new council with a proposed implementation plan so they can have the last say. Before I go too much further, I'd just like to thank you, the staff, and everybody involved, and all the people that contributed to the review and the check and with Transcend Consulting. And I'd like to take special mention to AJ. AJ has a unique way of dealing with some interviews with some older men that may not keep to complete to question task, but she manages to get out of the discussion what she needs to finish up a question. So well done, AJ, and you've obviously done an awesome job there. I don't actually see the report as a review per se. It's really a check-in of the program to date. It's a program that's to cover all of Otago, and we've just really started. It's really just a check-in to see what's working and where we may be able to make alterations. Because the one thing that we do know, we're doing something new, and we're going to develop and grow as it proceeds. As we go through the process, I think it's really good that the check-in or the review itemises some stuff that's really good, and that the program is going in the right direction, and it's based on robust planning and the use of the conversation standards of doing like a good process. So we're getting consistency of information and consistency of participation as well. And I understand that conservation standards is actually used in a couple of things. Southern Lake Sanctuaries may use it. So it is a recognised process, and I think and the process actually has got a unique way of giving the participants ownership and a way to actually participate really in the process. And then the review comes into areas that where the project may be starting to outgrow itself. And the first one, and probably the main one, is around the governance structure over that the program is underpinning on, because the governance structure needs to move from an implementation or a startup system where we're developing processes and developing systems to actually a proper governance structure. We're overseeing an established process so that we're getting the best consistency going right across the integrated catchment management system. So we're pretty much right on page with the governance structure stuff, and the requirement to have the higher level governance structure, how along the lines of the Transcend report that brings everybody in, the council, the communities, community groups, iwi, all into one big partnership, super partnership, which is where we need to be to actually make lasting process. The next big thing is recognising input that the communities are doing, and at the end of the day, they can't we can't expect them just to keep doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff. So we need to look at ways that we can provide funding streams to be able to support the communities and their work in the job as well. And so I think that's something that the new council is going to have to deliberate on really hard. And just pick up on what Councillor Methven beside me says, we have to think pretty big, and we have to think out of the square. How are we going to be able to establish sufficient enough funding lines to actually get really telling results on the ground? But then it gets a little bit workman-like around stuff that happens within our internal systems and information sharing, and starting our monitoring processes at the beginning so that we are doing stuff that is aligned to our strategic directions and our established working frameworks. Because it's so important to continue that monitoring, because one thing that we do know is it's not going to end up where we start. So there's still going to be ongoing growth and development and changes as we go through. So we've got to have a monitoring system to pick up when we need to pivot and change. So I actually think it's a really good piece of work. It gives us a bit of a roadmap to refocus the project, and it's going to enable us to take the project to a new level. And whether we speed it up or whether we make it more thorough, that's yet to be found out. But we hope we end up getting both those results. As for the Taieri project, continuing and not continuing, I think it's really important to understand the Taieri project and the processes around that was put in place probably 3 or 4 months ago. It started to be linked as being the next place, and we all agreed that we're going to continue with the Taieri project on the time frame given prior to this checkpoint review. So I think we just need to continue to do that so that we get some consistency and it rolls on. And once again, we know that things are going to change. We had a group of people this morning, and they sitting there saying their group was different at the end to what it was at the start. Because these things will progress and change over time. We have to allow them to do that. We have to make sure that we're not so rigid that we don't allow things to develop. So I think we need to enable that project to continue, and it'll be up to the communities as to whether they make it a success or not. So I'd just like to once again thank everybody that's been involved and support the motions.
Thank you. We're taking them individually. So we'll take number 1 first, which is noting this report. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Number 2, endorsing the recommendations of the Transcend report in attachment 1, and that an implementation plan will be developed and brought back to the new council as per option 1. All in favour? Aye. Against?
No.
3 noes. Would you like those recorded?
Yes, please.
Yep.
You know who they are?
Yep.
Okay.
Councillor Kelleher, Councillor Laws and Councillor Malcolm. If there's any other no's, put your hands up now. Good, we'll record those. Motions passed. 3, delegates to the Chief Executive Authority to sign off the Taieri Integrated Catchment Group membership as per option 1. All in favour? Aye. Against?
No.
Division. Thanks.
Councillor Forbes.
Aye.
Councillor Kelleher.
No.
Councillor Laws.
No.
Councillor Malcolm.
No.
Councillor McCord.
Yes.
Councillor Methven.
Yes.
Councillor Noon.
Aye.
Councillor Robertson.
Aye.
Councillor Somerville.
Aye.
Councillor Weir.
Aye.
Councillor Wilson.
No.
So we have 7 in favour and 4 against. Motion's passed.
7-4 motion passed. Thank you. At this point, I think we just need to have a quick pit stop. So yeah, I know I should get the pronunciation correctly. I know. Sorry. You know what I mean. So we've got probably only time. Thank you, AJ. We've only got about 5 minutes this time. Sorry, everyone. I'll move it. Andrew's going to second it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
We won't
Yeah,
do
we
it.
do.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, we're just gonna get underway with this paper now. We're back and we are unmuted. Right, yep, we're on. So this paper is 10-12 OSC review of committee structure, terms of reference and delegations. Amanda, this was a commitment that was made, as a decision of this council going back at that time. So do you wanna introduce this one?
Sure, thanks, Richard. So as you mentioned, when the pilot or the trial, committee structure was adopted in March this year to look at a new committee structure, we promised to come back for this meeting and sort of collect reflections on how that committee structure had worked, with consideration to potentially providing that to the incoming council post-elections to help them with their considerations around committee setup. So the paper's really set up around seeking those reflections. If there's any feedback or additional considerations that would be useful to collect, that would be great. There's also it touches on delegations, which was council in March did not make any changes to committee delegations. As I mentioned in the paper, we've only had 2 substantive rounds of committees, and it wasn't really easy to draw any big conclusions around delegations in that shorter operating time. But I guess that's flagged there as well if there was wanting to be feedback. And then in terms of the recommendations, it's whether you'd like this to be shared, including additional feedback with the incoming council. So happy to take questions, but also happy to listen to reflections. Really.
Thanks, Amanda. Do people want to ask questions or yeah, I'm thinking probably not, because we understand our committee structures. So yeah, should we just okay, so how will this work? Because we've got shares reflections on how the committee structure. Yeah, how am I going to structure that?
So my recommendation is someone's prepared to move and second through debate, share those reflections. Staff will be able to then pick up on those and ensure those things are passed on as part of the paper that goes to the incoming council when they consider committee options. So that would be the way I would.
Well, couldn't you ask that by email?
Well, you can email us as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Which would be a more considered response and give everybody the opportunity.
We'd take that anyway. Like we'd always take feedback on, and Amanda would be happy to, or send it to myself. But there was a request for a paper. The paper's here. If people want to take the opportunity now, then that's there. But certainly by email. Yeah.
Good idea, yeah. So people can briefly say what they want to say now and then go away and email as well. It's always good for the public to hear what we've got to say as well. So do you want to move then, Councillor
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I'll so move. And
seconded, Councillor Wilson. Yep. Off you go.
I just want to say, first of all, to everybody here, I've got some good news for you if you're looking forward to the elections and who's going to be sitting around this table. 3 elections ago, only 2 incumbents lost their job. 2 elections ago, 0, and the last election, just 1. Now, the reason I said that is because most of the people, in other words, who are around the table standing again are likely to be around this table standing at the next election. And so they will be bringing, Richard, a fairly strong view, I imagine, on how the committee structure works. So I think that will feed into that as well. So I'm just also suggesting that we're running out of time. It's late in the day. You've had 2 days of it. Just send an email, for God's sake, to Richard, is it? Do we send an email to you or do we send an email to Amanda?
I'll let you choose.
And then you can give your consideration. But one thing for you first-term councillors who, well, maybe had your first term here, the reason that we set up the committees is that 2 elections ago, we decided that we really like the idea of all councillors sitting around this table being equal, with the exception of the chair and the deputy chair. And so we set up an idea of everybody having the opportunity to co-chair. And I still say I like that system. I really do. I think it has equaled us all around the table. There is no A team and B team. That's the best way of putting it. Apart from the woke left who are in charge at the moment. That I didn't say that out loud, did I? But I will say But I will say this, and that is,
Even Tortoise is
I
coming
think it
in.
would be nice, and this is the one change that I think we should make, is that the chairs need to be in on the agenda setting. So I think, I know they are at the moment. What I'm trying to say is there needs to be more of an ability, no, there needs to be more of an ability for councillors to be able to put something on the agenda. And not just the chairs as well. So at the end of the day, you're not just process here to tick off what staff recommend or say, yes, that's a good idea, that's a no, it's a good idea. There's got to be a level of creativity that allows governance to bring policy issues and creative ideas to the table and have the ability to put that on the agenda. And that's the one thing I'd like to see a process for moving forward. There you go.
Councillor Wilson.
I'm going to speak to this. I totally appreciate that we can, and should give some comments by email to be more efficient. But the one I'm really concerned about, and I raised it last week at the audit and risk, is the need or the perception that Andrew Douglas should stand down in this term. And he didn't actually start his role until I think 3rd of June 2020. Oh, sorry, there was first meeting here at the end, I think it was in June, and could have an impact on. My concern there is that we could have quite a substantial change, despite the best of views of Councillor Laws.
Just give me the history.
And and if we go with a two-term sit down, then at least two of the current members, if they should get back on, would be standing down from that committee as well anyway. So I personally think that we should be trying to have an appointment for an independent chair that should go across the term of the council, and to give consistency and support for CE potentially in a difficult changeover situation. I think the only other reflection I want to give, and I'm glad that this report has been noted in with the potential iwi representation, what I found really sad around this table is at times where people who we say are around the table with us as councillors, as members, do not have name tags and or aren't given that or a position title. And I think there's a real opportunity for improving on that. We come as councillors or chairs, but they have no name, role, and that I think is the deficiency of feeling like being part of this table.
No other. I had a couple, I think. Yeah, and sorry, we'll think it Councillor Weir. Yeah, I had the Andrew Douglas one as well, but also just I think that the new committee structures worked really well. So yeah, it does seem to align a lot better with how the organisation's actually structured. So yeah, from my observation, that's right. Then yeah, the delegations, I think it's captured well in 17 that there's probably little point in this council giving an opinion on where delegations should be, because any council will have strong views on that, and the new council will be no different, I'm sure. We're not going to be able to convince people one way or the other, probably. Although what I would say is that having been on this council for lots of years, I have seen it work where there has been delegations to committees, and that it worked very similarly. Well, it's exactly the same as the A to E there, where you consider at committees the obvious things, like if it's within the LTP or the annual plan, then that's fine. You can make a decision around that. If it's outside of it, you can't. Yeah, and anything that's out of the ordinary basically needs to come to council. Otherwise, if it's obviously sits with that committee, it gets handled by that committee. For example, we used to sometimes, I don't know, the engineering committee or whatever it used to be called may need to refer to the policy and strategy committee to make a decision on something to do with policy. That's how it used to work. And that all happened fine. So I think it wouldn't be a new area if we did want to handle delegations, and actually a council that had strong views probably around democracy and all that stuff did get on with that type of business in the past, fine. So, yeah, the new council will decide on that, but I do think myself that it makes sense not to double handle things where we don't need to. Right, that's it from me, councillor Weir.
Yeah, I mean, I've appreciated, well, I don't know, support learning the ropes last 3 years, but I think the co-chair model has worked quite well, and the chair's briefings before meetings have worked quite well. I think the new structure is an improvement on the last one, and yeah, I do think we should look at delegations in the future, but that's something for the next council to decide. The one thing I would really like to share with the incoming next council is that I do think we should have voting records recorded somewhere publicly that the public can access right from the start of the next triennium. I think that's a big step in transparency that we could take. That knowledge it's not the most simple thing in the world, but there are other councils in the country that are implementing that. And I think that's something that the next council should look at right from the start. But otherwise, yeah.
Councillor Forbes, thanks.
I just wanted to frame in the debate a question that I had, but it's only a little one, and maybe consider how often in the report that goes to the next council, how often any of those things have been overturned in full council, any committee recommendations have been overturned. That would help make a decision on delegations. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Sunderland.
I will very briefly rather than an email. Yeah, look, where there are committees in the whole, it seems to me the delegations as set out in paragraph 18 make good sense in terms of efficiency. I note the recommendations from the Tiriti audit, which recommended we explore delegations to committees with mana whenua representation, and I think that really is a very important one. And I agree that the co-chair system is a very good one to continue.
No other comments? Yeah, councillor McColl.
Thanks for that. I think the committee structure is improved from where it was, and it seems to be aligned good to the line to the work programs. I am disappointed that science was removed away from science and policy. But anyway, we still get to hear it when we come to council building. Paul, you look after that for us, please. I think it's very real. I think the co-chairs, I didn't actually agree with the co-chairs to start with, but I think as time goes on, I'll probably move towards appreciating co-chairs. You have two. And of course, I've been in the privileged position of being co-chair with Mātua Edward Ellison. And I think I just want to mention the input that Edward and other iwi representatives had on our committees, and it's a really good way to get the iwi representation at a higher level, where it needs to be. And I think that's really good, and I'd really like to see that going forward. And pretty much around the delegations, I sit here and I can't understand why audit and risk is the only committee that's not a committee of the whole. And I also can't understand when you've got a committee of the whole that it doesn't have some form of delegation. So I figure that we'd be better to delegate our committees, and then I think we'll get more direct decision making and more timely, information to the staff for their work programs. So I'll probably be in favour of may not perhaps not all decisions, but some of the base decisions like A to E ones. So A to E, yeah, to be delegated at some stage.
Yep.
That's about me. Thank you.
Okay, we've got some councillors who need to leave,
Thank you.
so yeah, if you've got anything you really need
No,
to
just
say, no,
best of luck.
good. Thank you. Best of luck to everyone. Yeah,
No,
Councillor Callaghan.
yes, thank you. Best of luck. I'll take my mountain of Switzerland, and best of luck to Alexa.
Thank you.
We
And
get
you'll
re-elected.
Get some chocolate in there.
Yes, I'll bring that too. We get re-elected. We'll meet with other Dunstan constituent candidates and have a
Be lovely.
with you.
Yeah.
If we don't, then
Good
we'll
luck
have a
to you.
coffee anyway.
Have coffee anyway, okay.
Best of luck to everyone.
Best of luck to you all. Enjoy the drive back, be safe,
Thank you.
and you get to avoid my speech. Well done.
Ring it, you can tell me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good luck. Thank you.
We'll still be incriminated.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Right, so we've got enough people left that we can move these motions, I think.
Move them. That's
Oh.
Karen Leapfrog.
Yeah, he does, he wants to make it.
I will second it. I'll move it.
I'll second a new motion.
It's hilarious.
So we have to start the debate again?
We don't. We're placed here. You're welcome to
Yeah, can you
email.
keep on record that he did move it, because it's really
Might have got
important
that
that he
message.
accepted some of the information.
Fantastic. Right, so Kate's moving, Alex seconding. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Amanda, for pulling that together.
Can I clarify that we just did 3A, because it says or, not sure.
Yeah,
if that's
3A.
clarified.
Kind of by definition.
Oh,
given
yeah,
the-
no, we agreed in
We did,
fact
good.
that we were.
Richard
Yeah,
said that.
sorry. Yeah. Thank you. So yes, that's right. Thanks. 10:13 interregnum.
Lovely.
Have been moved.
Thank
That's
you.
really very.
Got a mover in Councillor Malcolm, seconder in Councillor Wilson. Any debate on this? No, everyone's clear what it does, no
Definition of urgent.
questions.
No, don't.
Words are important. They're very clear here though, so that's great. So we can put it there. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
I'm happy to move to 10.14.
Document signed. Yeah, thank you.
Seconded.
Right, seconded was Councillor Noon. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. We are on to acknowledgement of retiring councillor and appointed members. Oh. Big moment. So this is our chance to publicly acknowledge retiring councillor Alexa Forbes. Also to acknowledge appointed members Andrew Douglas, who is also standing down from his role as independent co-chair of Audit and Risk, having served 2 terms, which is the maximum number at the moment. And acknowledging co-matua Edward Allison, who has co-chaired, as we've mentioned before, the Policy Committee, the Strategy and Policy Committee, and co-chaired the Environmental Science and Policy Committee as well, Karen Coates and Hawani Langsbury. So earlier today we had an opportunity at lunchtime informally as councillors to thank Councillor Alexa Forbes, who has served 2 consecutive terms on the ORC and has contributed a significant amount to this council. It's recorded there formally in terms of what positions you've held. And we've mentioned as well that you have done all of those positions in an area that's experiencing some of the highest growth in the country. As a result of that, as you leave with the 3 councillors representing the Dunstan constituency, there'll be 4 in the future, which means that the councillors who have been representing that area have actually been carrying a pretty massive load. And you, Alexa, living in situ, not ex situ, in Queenstown, You have been doing a lot of that right on the scene work as well, and have given a lot as well through the formal roles, but also just those day-to-day roles that councillors do that are often unseen. Having discussions with community members who sometimes they're offering positive feedback, sometimes they've got advice, sometimes they want you to feed things back through to us, and it's all really helpful. But it takes a lot of time. So thank you for doing that role. Thank you for the partnerships that you have established with Mana Whenua and with other councils in the area as well, and organisations. We mentioned earlier today as well that you're someone who has a special quality of working with all people and treating everyone equally and honouring everyone's views and values. And some of your professional background as well comes into play there. Your ability to have a conversation and get out the information from people comes in really handy. That journalism training. It's really helpful for a councillor to be able to have those conversations with anyone and get to the nub of an issue, and then try to move forward constructively so that we get actions happening. And that's you. So I'm not going to read out all of the things that are there for you. And I've also acknowledged Andrew Douglas as well in audit and risk. We're going to come back so everyone can have a chance to speak. Andrew Douglas, though, has been acknowledged for the independence and professionalism, the oversight that he's provided in that role. It'd be great to have him for a bit longer. Councillor Wilson agree. And Edward Allison, very hard to sum up what Edward Allison has done for this council over many years, a huge amount. Edward served, obviously recently as co-chair of environmental strategy and science and policy, which exactly became strategy and planning. And co-chairing Mana to Mana, member of the Land and Water Regional Governance Group, involvement in the Upper Lakes Working Group, Eco Fund, and many other governance roles. Called on for advice any time of the day. Edward's there, offering his wisdom and his perspective, and just a really great guy that we all trust and work with. A local farmer, a local personality on the peninsula, a great person and very hardworking. Also with ORC, having been the kaitaka wainga in the early 1990s, so actually employed by the ORC back then as well. So really, really well, has been around ORC its whole existence. So that's, amazing to have that. And so, just recognising in a big way what Edward's given to Otago, and Hoani Langsbury and Karen Coates as well as the members of committees that were appointed through Mana Whenua for the last triennium. Some of the issues that we've dealt with around the table and had good robust discussion and debate around haven't been easy ones. They're the biggest topics that a council will ever need to discuss. Our land and our water, what we've built on. So the biggest issues that we have. And we've only strengthened ORC and set up a really good platform to go forward from, I think. So, sometimes it's not easy, but hard topics do need to be discussed. We might have paused some of that work. That's all right. But we did, we've made some good progress in discussion in this community and in this region. So I think that is everyone on the list there. Does anyone else want to share anything? Councillor Noon.
Well, first I concur with those comments with regards to the appointed members, so thank you for that. I just want to say to Alexa, you've been a very committed and strong advocate for your Thatch, Queenstown area, but equally the Otago region as well. Really valued our working relationship as chairs of the Public and Active Transport Committee. We're politically probably a little bit separate, but when we're focused on public and active transport and other environmental matters, we come together, and that's awesome. I've got an apology to make. We launched the council launched the new bus service for Mosgiel, the on-demand bus service, and asked you to christen the bus with a plastic water bottle, and you made the comment about it being plastic. So I should have had a vessel that was more suited, that could be reused many times when we christen new bus services in Dunedin. But no, seriously, thanks very much for all your efforts. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Somerville.
Thank you. Yes, well, thank you to all those people, but Alexa is the only one of them currently in the room, so she's probably going to be the focus for the comments. I think I've been extremely lucky to arrive on a council that Alexa was on, because for me, she has been just a fantastic model of all the things a councillor should be. And it occurs to me that this, having arrived on our table, this is a very good metaphor in a way, that here's the new learning that Alexa is open to, and that's something as a councillor over the last 3 years I have had plenty of new learning too. So again, that model of being open to and putting the effort into new learning. Thank you, Alexa, that's great.
Thank you. Councillor Metham.
I don't usually like jumping on the bandwagon, but Alexa, I do just want to publicly acknowledge you and your service to the Regional Council and the public of Queenstown as well. I've enjoyed working with you. You're a unique personality. I love the fact that you've sang with Mitch Marsden. Go well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Councillor McColl.
Just really briefly, just to Alexa, don't be a stranger. I'm sure we'll catch up. And thank you for everything you've done.
Councillor Weir.
Yeah, do just want to acknowledge the EB representatives we've had and Andrew for all of their work, and then of course to Alexa. I don't know. I told you what Councillor Somerville said. I've certainly learnt lots from the way you're able to talk to members of the public and around the council table and stuff. So genuinely, it's been an honour to spend the last 3 years around the table with you around the table as well. I'm very excited to see what's next as well for you. Sure.
Councillor Wilson, and then Malcolm.
I'd like to acknowledge the work of the appointed members as well, and I've really enjoyed it. Councils can be less diverse by the nature of elections, despite what best intents of various different ways of electing people. And having other views around the table is always a good way of ensuring that you're considering all the points. And so I welcome that. And the opportunity of having discussions outside of meetings as well, especially Edward's availability to do that. I'd like to acknowledge that. Alexa, I have been working with Alexa for more than the last 6 years, and I just want to acknowledge the joy of getting out of this table sometimes and going out on South Island regional land transport matters or regional land transport matters. And I think it's, if I was going to reflect on one of the things I don't think we do well enough or enough of, is getting out and seeing how other councils work and to cooperate. And as much as at times people will say that this councils are divided, I think we've agreed on things more often than we've disagreed. We've challenged each other at times, but it's with respect, and that is how democracy works, because you represent some people and I represent other views, and that is a good way of democracy working. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Happy travels. And I respect you for biking the bike and busing the bus and walking the walk as well as talking the talk.
Thanks. Councillor Malcolm.
You might last. How long have I got?
4 minutes go.
Alexa.
I think today, and I won't say the name because it may not be public yet. I think the strength of Edward really shone out today when we had that video from Port explaining how the harbour was formed, why it was formed, why our Saddle Hill was formed, and for him to impart that on it and impart that knowledge throughout his works with us, I think is just pretty powerful. So I'm not sure what he's doing next round. So that's been quite sensational. And then Hoani and Karen have brought a really a good insight to things of their way. And it's, yeah, they've done it with great dignity and with an ability for us to understand what they've been trying to put across. So that's been really, really good. Alexa, you and I are quite different, but when we get out of the mire of detail, I've always found that in big picture stuff, I think we're just about identical. We could probably get there different ways. We get there different ways, but always have a vision. And don't be scared to write one down, and don't be scared to go towards it. So thanks for being a good colleague. Thank you.
Alexa, do you want to say something?
I do. I've had some reflections, and first of all, I'm going to start with one of our really good things that's happened over this last 6 years, and that is the mana to mana, because we've been talking about that, and I'd really like to acknowledge Edward. And one of the things I'd like to say is encourage you all, everybody here, if you haven't already, to go to the art gallery just over the road and see the Unataye exhibition. If everyone's seen that, that's great, but we really, really all should. Basically, that translates as what has happened in an away way. It's a poignant reminder of the degradation of our water that's happened within the lifetimes of most of us here, not you, probably, but the rest of us. And it features our friends, Edward Allison and David Higgins, both tell beautiful stories there. So we really should all go and do that. Anyway, I want to now reflect on the last 6 years. I was elected in October 2019, and the very first council meeting delivered stark news. The Skelton report warned that our immediate challenge, you were there, Kevin, was developing a fit-for-purpose planning framework ahead of the expiry of deemed water permits. That was the start of my crash course in regional council work. Then came COVID. And early on in that, we contributed $70,000 to support AJ Hackett's pivot from tourism to conservation. May not have seemed like a huge deal at the time, but it was many months before the Jobs for Nature initiative. And that initial grant around this table helped build a fund that supported tourism workers to move into conservation roles. The benefits of that decision continue to ripple out today. One, those people stayed in Queenstown, they couldn't have otherwise. And also with direct lines to several restoration projects in the headwaters and the ongoing strength of organisations like Waiwanaka, Southern Lake Sanctuary, and those of the Conservation Alliance. Most of them were set up before COVID, but that's the point is that they are very strong and gained strength throughout that time. And there were many other highlights over those 6 years, developing strategic directions and where they sat and their environmental, climate and biodiversity priorities and fostering collaboration with communities, working with a Kiuta Kitai approach from the mountains to the sea. I think that was a key moment of those 6 years too. Increasing funding for the Eco Fund and securing fairer funding for Waifakata Lake Hayes restoration. These are all key moments. Taking a systems view of transport, building a functional transport team, because I really don't think we had one before that, and delivering practical improvements. And just recently, the Arrowtown to Jacks Point bus route, and then back then, getting the $2 fare into Dunedin. And now a permanent ferry service across the lake just last week. The patronage continues to grow on our services, despite decreasing government support. It's a credit to us. Establishing a $2 million per year fund for landscape-scale environmental projects, critical for the health of our waters and ecosystems. I worry that this year that fund is coming from reserves when it needs to be fully embedded in our ratepayer contributions. Ratepayers need to understand the importance of that fund. Again, I encourage you to get along and see Unatai. So anyway, that's it. Perhaps the most important achievement has been the strengthening of Manata Mana and Kaitahu representation on key committees and weaving Maori perspectives into council work. And thank you for acknowledging my little baskets. And they may not be the most beautiful, but they are a metaphor for that weaving and for bringing that new learning and bringing people and all those things together. And there's a bit of sweetness in there, like a chocolate or something, and some nice smelling daffodils. So those things are all important. Other milestones. Oh, the thing about bringing those Maori perspectives into council work, there is nothing to lose by doing that. We keep hearing stories about there might be something to lose. There is nothing to lose and everything to gain in continuing to build those relationships. So please do that. Other milestones have included the Great Lakes Working Group, incredibly important work. Acknowledge Don Robertson with that. Integrated catchment management with action plans for Catlins and Upper Lakes. Really good. Thank you, Lloyd. You've really taken the heavy lifting with that and it's been awesome. Improved regional deal committee processes. And thank you to you, Gretchen, your superb chairing abilities got us through some tricky moments in there. And what else? A huge expansion in science data collection and reporting that we can all be proud of, investing in that monitoring because it goes a long way. And before I say where it goes, just a big thank you to all of our staff for great improvements in reporting and in workshop planning and in the pivot that our whole place took when Richard came on as CE, and all the work that's helped us understand the issues and the connections between issues. And also to our comms team that shares that work and the Enviro Schools teams that engages kids in it, which is so important. And some of those reports that come out of your area, Tom, are just amazing and they do engage kids. They're fascinating. So all these things are important and all the team I'm very proud of. Thank you. As the first councillor from Queenstown, I wanted to ensure when I first came here into this room was that our headwaters, Wanaka and the small communities were visible in what was once a Dunedin-centric organisation. Today, staff and councillors are regularly in the headwaters and the region is far more embedded in ORC's thinking. I have great appreciation for this and the resulting improvement in relationships is immense, and I thank you, all of you, for taking that seriously. And every time I've around this table, I know I've banged on mercilessly about Queenstown and Wanaka and the upper areas, but and you've taken that really, really well, taken it to heart and done that work. We have not yet restored our waters. They continue to degrade at this point, and allowing economics to outweigh environmental health is a fool's game. Our mokos will pay the price. But green shoots are emerging. The restoration of Waifakata, Lake Hayes, hazard management, integrated catchment plans, public transport improvements, all of those things will work us towards restoring those waters. To the incoming councillors, you inherit a council with awareness of the upper headwaters regions firmly embedded. To my colleagues on Manata Mana, especially Ed Ellison and the staff at Okaha, particularly Sandra McIntyre, ka mihi nui. Your patience, guidance and long-term perspective have taught me so much. Finally, to all of my fellow councillors, thank you, and special thanks to you, Gretchen, modelling how to chair well, especially when navigating contentious issues. Thank you all. There have been moments of mortification, quite often, moments of learning and moments of joy. And I thank you all for your open ears and hearts as the challenges ahead grow ever more complex. You are going to need those. I'll just finish with a wee whakatauki. Ka ora te wai, ka ora te whenua, ka ora te whenua, ka ora ka tangata. If the water is healthy, the land is healthy. If the land is healthy, the people are healthy. Focus on that. Everything else is distraction. Ka mihi mō tautoko. Thank you for your support and ka kite anō. I'll see you again.
Thank you, Councillor Forbes. Now, at this point, I have already spoken, but I just want to make a special thanks to our staff. It's not all about us because we're only as good as our people. Like I said, earlier today when we had the rescue helicopter come, and there were a lot of photos of helicopters and equipment and great processes and an awesome structure that have been set up, but actually underlying all of that are fantastic people. And fantastic leadership and people that go above and beyond. And I said to Graham Gale that he's a bit of a legend, because he is a bit of a legend. But we've actually got some bit of a legends at ORC as well. And I know Richard hates to be drawn out as, anything other than part of the team. And I'm pretty sure that Graham Gale feels the same as this. But actually, Richard, I am going to say this publicly, that's when we look back on what are some of our greatest achievements, we look back and we think that appointing you into the CE role was a significant and possibly our biggest achievement in the last 3 years. So I hope that everyone feels pride in that, and I think it's great to be recognised, and you bring amazing skills to the organisation. You always go above and beyond. Your role model, great behaviour at all times, even through the most challenging of situations. You always answer ratepayers on the same day, generally, as when an inquiry comes in, even. No matter the scale of that, you'll do it yourself. There's no matter that is too small when it comes to dealing with our communities, and that's fantastic. Doors are always open to councillors too, so thank you for that. A massive thanks. Also though, sitting right next to you is Amanda, who is unbelievably good as well. And yeah, you support us as well, particularly with your role through governance as well. But also to IC of the organisation, and your skills really complementary to Richard's and really important. So recognising that. The ELT leadership team as well, and stepping into, in many cases, new roles this year and hitting the ground really running. Well done to all of you. All of you have been within our organisation, and we're really proud of you. We're a great team, so well done. And then everyone else within the organisation as well, who deals with things on a day-to-day basis. We get customer satisfaction back from those interactions that's in the high 90%, like really high 90%. Everyone in this organisation goes above and beyond. So please thank everyone. In doing that as well, I want to particularly thank Kylie, who's sitting right next to me, and this is for you, Kylie, and this card, because you have offered us amazing support throughout the triennium. And yeah, councillor has signed the card there for you. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You're sitting right next to me, and when everything fails, it's up to you to fix it, and you always do. So well done, and thank you. I think that's nearly it, unless, Richard, you managed to get off without having to say anything. You don't have to, but if you'd like to say anything at the end of the training, you're welcome.
I did take a chance to say that thank, in my CE's report, just to thank councillors for all your work and what's been a incredibly busy 3 years with some fairly significant issues and significant challenges. So look, the staff feel well supported, and I think we get value from our roles by being empowered to do things, and I think we have felt that we've been given that opportunity by this council table to get out there and do some good work. So that's been very much appreciated, and obviously just a special acknowledgement to Alexa for your support of staff and your particular areas of passion which you have brought to the table, and work really closely with staff around public transport and around freshwater health and the broader environment in that Upper Lakes area. So I'm sure we will continue to see you around, which will be great. But no, otherwise, best of luck to the rest of the councillors through the election period, and we look forward to seeing who's around the table come the end of October.
Thanks,
Good luck to everyone.
So we actually have some recommendations here, and they're around recording gratitude to the people that have been mentioned. Councillor Wilson's moving that, Councillor Weir's seconding, all in favour? Aye. Against, carried. All right, well, final closing karakia. Kia tau te rangi Māori ki runga i ngā iwi o te ao. Let peace reign on all the peoples of the world. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.